All right, good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Afriforex daily analysis. This beautiful 19th day of September. Hope everyone is well. Good to see you all here. Hope you had a good time on the chats yesterday and in everything else that you're doing. And hopefully you're having a beautiful morning this day, but we're glad that you could join us. For the sake of guys who are joining us here, for the first time, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, like we always say, so it's not a one-man show. We do have Mitch. He is here. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them, both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will definitely be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at the questions more specifically in the Q&A section towards the very tail end of this webinar. But as always, don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can ask your questions, even as the webinar does end up progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at what we had on the watch list yesterday in comparison to today. So you can see the watch list right there. So you can see that only one change so far. So the Swiss franc moving on into the sell side, but more or less everything else does end up remaining. So feel free to take note of that. We'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. So we'll start off with the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. And I pointed out we wanted to see the market actually break to the downside and actually hold within here. And it did actually hold within this region, because you can see that there were even some attempts, of the bars to push the market to the upside, which were unsuccessful, and the market continued to hold within there before the market did calm down. This was during the London session yesterday, so at least that sell did work out, but you definitely did need to manage your trade within that region there, because you can't see that moving into today, and of course starting off from yesterday, the market did actually start to move the other way. So unfortunately, not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can get any trades. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten sells as well. And you clearly can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative there. The price was somewhere within this region in the morning. So we're expecting maybe to get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. You can see that the market rallied down, bounced off that region, came up, still came shy of that area. I think there was some sort of an SNR here that was really holding, because you can see that the market came down the first time, the second time, that time some sort of a hold before it broke, during the Asian session. So this one, a bit of a tricky situation in terms of grabbing the sells yesterday, but unfortunately not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can get trades today. So last but not least, we do have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you clearly can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere here. So I was expecting at least if we could have gotten the market maybe pulling back in. And I wanted to see these sellers push the market back, down within this region. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. The buyers did push the market up, but you just needed to be patient, because you can't see that later on. Although this was much, much later on, of course, when there were those interest rate news events, for the USD that came out, but the market still came back in within this region right here before going, springing off that area to the upside. So for this one, unfortunately, not really a currency pair that we'll be trying to see whether we can get any trades today. So we can jump in and start looking at a couple of screenshots, or a number of screenshots that we did end up getting yesterday. So we'll start off with this one from Brazil. So this one was on silver as always. So I can see that you got couple of selling opportunities within there, which was good. Stop losses for both trades. I guess somewhere within that region there, market came down. Hopefully you did manage your trade within this area, but this was a very, very good, trading opportunity that you did actually end up maximizing on. So this is really good. So shout out to you for that, Bravin, and of course, keep up the good work. So we also did get a screenshot from Christine. Christine, if you're here, shout out to you. So this is on gold. So I can see you got a handful of sells high up there as the market was coming down, which is good. And I think your stop loss is somewhere within this region right here. That's what you pointed out, but it does also seem like it's somewhere within there. So, which is okay. In terms of where you got the sales, that's good. Market came down. Can't see your levels, which is also good. But of course, considering the fact that the market is all the way down within here, then your stops for all the trades could be somewhat down within this region. Just make sure that you do maximize in case the market does actually end up turning to the upside. So this one is not bad. It's actually very good in terms of where you got the sells. But of course, hopefully you did watch out, and possibly did manage your trade at the bottom, or your trades at the bottom right there. But that's really good. So shout out to you for that, Christine. So we also did get screenshots from George Shege. So this is on US oil. Good to see that you're still trading it, though we haven't looked at this one in a very long time. But I can see that you got the buy somewhere within this region right here, and the market did move to the upside. You did close your trade somewhere within this area right here. So not a bad trade. In terms of where you got the entry, a bit of a tricky situation there, but at least you did make it out alive. So shout out to you for that. And you also did end up getting a selling opportunity on this is on gold. So I can see that you got the sell somewhere within this area right here, which is good. Market was coming down. You're targeting the extreme, the low, complete low, but at least hopefully when the market did come in within this region, hopefully you did manage your trade. But nonetheless, this is not bad in terms of where you actually did get the sell. At least that's where the sellers are. But once the market started to move in your favor, at least your stop loss could have come in lower, just to make sure that at least you bank a bit more cash in case the market does end up turning to the upside. But that's really good. So shout out to you for that. So we also did get a couple of screenshots from Peter. So Peter, if you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is on Euro USD. So I can see that you got the buy somewhere within this region right here. So maybe when the market pulled back in, if that's where you got the buy, that's okay. I can see that your stop is within that area, and I can see that you're targeting somewhere within there. This is on the 4-hour time frame, more of a swing trade. But at least in terms of where you got the buy, not too bad. I would say. So shout out to you for that. The Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So I can see that you got the sell on this one. Although this one was a bit of a tricky one because where you got the sell, if you look at generally this region right here, it seems like an area where we do have buyers. So by getting the sell there, a bit off location, considering the fact that you can see that this buyer has pushed this market to the upside quite aggressively. You're not too sure whether the market could actually end up, either coming down or possibly end up going to the upside. Maybe if the market broke to the downside on the pullback, if you got the sell, then at least that would have been much safer. But nonetheless, good to see that at least you're trying and also pushing. So also maybe one other thing, maybe you can't take into consideration. I mean, if you do end up taking the sell somewhere within this region right here, if let's say you read the story here on a smaller time frame, because this is the 4-hour time frame, and you saw the market go up and come down, then ideally your stop loss could also come in lower, somewhere within here, just to try and give you some proper risk to reward as the market doesn't end up continuing to come to the downside. So maybe you can also end up factoring that in. Because also remember that in case the market would come back in within this area here, even if your stop loss is here, the market will most probably come back in all the way to within here or somewhere here, because it seems like the sellers are actually sitting at the top there. But nonetheless, really good attempt. So we look forward to seeing more of your screenshots here. Peter, and of course, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc, more or less almost some sort of a similar situation. Where you got the sell seems like a buyer's region. But of course, depending on what you read on the smaller time frame, because this is the 4-hour time frame, I mean, if you got the sell there, at least then hopefully you should have been looking forward to manage your trade within these regions. But I can't see that your take profit is there. But at least for this one, the take profit is a bit tighter than on the other one. So shout out to you for that, Peter and Christine and George and Bravin. So shout out to you guys. Good to see you guys killing it on the charts. So remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp. We'd be more than happy to see what you guys are up to. And of course, in case you do have any issues, also feel free to reach out to us with the same contact details, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you. So shifting gears into matters today. So hopefully for the guys who come in a bit late, you can take note of what the watch list is going to be looking like today. So there's only one change so far for the Swiss franc. There's been a handful of fundamentals that have come out, but there's really nothing much that has really changed the biases. So looking into the fundamentals today, we already had some Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar news events that have already come out. You can see that there will be some GBP news events that are going to be coming at around 2 p.m. Our time, East African time, and you can see that there are some interest rate decisions that are going to be coming out. So a lot of volatility is expected on the GBPs. Maybe something like what we saw yesterday for the USDs when the interest rate decisions did end up coming out. So just make sure that you also brace yourselves for impact in case the markets do end up, being volatile like we did see yesterday on the USDs. So you can see that there will also be more USD news events that will come out. So we should expect quite a lot of fireworks for the USDs today as well during the US session. So just make sure that you watch out for that. You can see quite a number of high impact news events at around 3:30 to around 5. So let's see what happens. So I guess we can end up starting to look at what the currency pairs have to offer today. So we'll start off with the Euro currency pairs. We'll mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. Move on to the cards, the yens, and then we'll finish off with the CHF pairs. So the first one off the line, this is the Euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. And I pointed out that hopefully if we got the market coming back in within this region, then maybe we would have tried to see whether we could have timed some selling opportunities. You can see that the market came in later, within that region right there. But for most of yesterday, the market was actually coming down within this region, came to this particular area. This was during the US session. You can see that the market went to the upside, came back, though a bit of a tricky situation in terms of grabbing the sells within here. But a lot of choppy movements within this region here. To some extent, the market seems to be moving in some sort of a downward channel. So we'll see what happens today. So these are the three areas where we will be watching out to see whether we can get opportunities and also areas where we can manage our trades. So right now we're back within here. Let's see if we can get the sellers possibly pushing the market to the downside aggressively, and hopefully the market can hold beneath this region to the downside. Then maybe we could attempt some selling opportunities within this area to come down here. But right now, considering the fact that the market is actually holding above here, you could find that maybe during the London session, there's a possibility you could find that the London big boys could push the market to the upside. Then the market could be within this region, maybe at around 3-430. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And in case that happens, then at least be ready. Possibly see if you could get some sells somewhere within there. In case the market breaks and holds above the red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us on the Euro against the New Zealand dollar. So the next one, this is the Euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. And you can see in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market had just come back in. Remember when the GBP CPIs came out and we started to see that strength coming in on the GBPs. And you can see that that was evident here. The market came back in, just pulled back in within that region quite fast, not a proper hold. And after that, you can see that the market just continued to rally down, reach somehow some sort of a hold within there. But you did need to read that on a smaller time frame. And of course, even down within this area right here, you can see that at 3, price was down, within some sort of a buyer-sellers region, but it had broken to the downside, pull back in at 3, and you can see that the market continued to push itself to the downside. So for this one, for today, these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So let's see what happens. Right now, the market is just attempting to break that region to the downside. So we'll have to wait and see if we can actually get, the market actually holding to the downside of this area right here, and hopefully on the pullback, especially if we see, attempts by the buyers to push the market to the upside, which end up being unsuccessful, then at least we could potentially try and see whether we could get some sells within this region to come down lower. But on the other hand, also remember, in case the market does actually bounce off this region to the upside, because you can see that there are some buyers here. The market yesterday came down quite aggressively, and you can see that, and yet some buyers within here were able to stop them in their tracks. They can't do that again. And of course, if the market does end up getting pushed back to the upside and actually hold, above this area here, then it means that these buyers are possibly going to be attempting to come back in again. And you could find that instead of the sellers maybe attempting to use this price again, because it's not sufficient. You can see that the previous time when the sellers came down, they came down this aggressive. The next time, you can see the mediocrity that's going on within here. So there's a possibility they might need better prices than this, which means that it might just come slightly higher up. You could find that the proper sales could be happening off that region there. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, the region at the top, also the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get sales. If the market breaks above that region, then unfortunately, there will be no trade for us on the euro against the Great British Pound. So the next euro pair is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, we also had it yesterday, trying to see whether we could get some sales. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was coming down, and you can see that at around 9, 10, price was somewhere within this area. We did need to see the market break and hold beneath this region for us to look for sales. You can see that the market did continue coming down, though it seems that maybe there could have been some buyers within here who pushed the market back to the upside. You can see that the market just fooled around within this area, sometimes to the upside, to the downside of this region right here, somehow almost came back in all the way till the top here, but that was quite late. At that point in time, I don't really think any of us were on the charts. And you can see that during the Asian session, the market has come down quite aggressively. So a lot of strength that is quite visible on the AUDs, which is something that you'll see even when we look at the rest of the Australian dollar pairs. So I guess the game plan is always the same. We need to wait for a pullback. So let's wait and see what happens. If we can get the market bouncing off here to the upside, hopefully, and we get the market coming back in, within this region here, then hopefully we could try and see whether we could get a slowdown, of the buyers and the big sellers coming in, and you could find a good sell happening off this region right here, especially considering the fact that the market has broken to the downside of this area. It's quite visible on the bigger time frame. So there's a probability and a possibility that we could get the market coming back in within that region, maybe for some sort of retest or something of the sort. So let's wait and see what happens there. But of course, like I always point out, the market has a mind of its own. So we could be expecting the pullback, but the market could actually break to the downside. If it does, we'd still need to wait and see whether we can get a pullback coming back in within there. So make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top in case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside and doesn't come back into the downside. Then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we do have the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, which are more or less the same as what we will be looking at for today. So you can see that the market really moved a lot yesterday, especially once the interest rate decisions did come out for the USD. We did see a lot of volatility. The market's throwing people all over the place. And I think that's where the boys and the men were really separated, So you can see the market going to the upside. Definitely some guys thought that it's a buy when it was high up there. They were chasing buys only for the market to come down low all the way, even breaking this region to the downside. And you can see that right now it's back in, within this region right here. So we were in some sort of a range. Remember, I had pointed out that yesterday. So of course, the best area to look for the sales was high up, within the top of the range right there, coming down within this region. You did need to manage your trade, and of course, somewhere within there. So this was a setup that I was looking at yesterday, and I did actually manage to get it, although I couldn't get all the way till the bottom, but we're also playing a bit conservative yesterday. We didn't really want to end up taking on too much risk, especially considering the fact that we did have the interest rate decisions that were coming out at around 9. So we didn't know what to expect. But of course, I took the screenshot just when the market was coming in within this area right here. I was really expecting to get the market coming down, at least still within this region here. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the market getting all the way till within there. But nonetheless, it's okay. Like I point out, we analyze to the best of our ability. The market has a mind of its own. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But the levels are the same. The range is holding. We've had spikes on both sides. So let's see if we can possibly get these sellers slowing down within this area. If we can, then at least we'll try and see whether we can time, some sales within here. If not, and the market breaks above that region, then unfortunately, at that point in time, then there will be no trade for us. So that's pretty much it in terms of the euro pairs. So we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can't see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. So in the morning, we're waiting for price to first see if we could get the pullback coming in within this area. This was a good area to look for the buy. But if not, remember I pointed out that we could wait for the market to break to the upside. On the pullback, then you could get the buys within here. So it did exactly what we were thinking here. It's just that it did it a bit bigger. So if we were to stretch this out, it's more or less the same thing. So you can't see that the market broke to the upside. You just needed to wait. And you can see that the market came back in, within this region before taking off to the upside quite aggressively, especially once those interest rate decisions did actually end up coming out, but more or less within the same region. So for this one, for today, we will still be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So let's wait and see if we can get those sellers where the market is right now reacting, if they can push the market to the downside, and we could get, hopefully, the market coming back in within here. You can generally see that the market structure is turning into a range, which is good. So if that being the case, then you know that the best area for you to look for yourselves is actually at the bottom of the range, which is somewhere within this region. So if we do get the sellers hopefully reacting, and we get the price coming back in within here, then at least we could try and see whether we could try, our buying opportunities within there. If not, then the next best day is when the market breaks to the upside of this area and it comes back in within here, then we could still look for the buys there. So something similar to this. So just give the market time. Let's see what happens. If you do look for buys now, there's a possibility you could be signing up for some major character development. So I'd advise you not to actually jump in on those buys just yet. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out and an illustration. So remember when the CPIs came out, this candle showed up and we knew that the buyers were going to come in, but just couldn't get that last pullback coming back in within here for the buys. And you can see that the market just continued to rally up quite aggressively all through the London session. The market went up, broke that region to the upside, came back in. Although the sellers came back in quite aggressively, even though you can see that they were contained by the bars within them, they did attempt to push the market to the upside once again. So for this one, for today, let's see if we can get some clear buying opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. We've adjusted them slightly higher up, of course, considering the story of what the price is telling us. So right now, considering the fact that the market has broken to the upside, let's see if this time around it holds. You can see that yesterday it broke to the upside, came back in, somehow seemed like it was holding. Then during the Asian session, which started off somewhere within here, the market came to the downside. Maybe these bars right here are the ones who are pushing the market back to the upside. Let's see on the next attempt if the market actually holds above this region right here, to attempt some buying opportunities. And I guess you could find that maybe during the interest rate decisions, when they come out at around 2, for the GBPs, you could find some good action whereby these big boys who had showed up yesterday might actually step back into the picture and we could get the markets moving. So watch out for that. But also remember the pullbacks can also come in deep. I mean, just like you saw on the USDs, yesterday when the interest rate news came out, I mean, the markets were really moving. So you could also find that this one could also spike low, stop out quite a number of buyers. There's a possibility it still could come back in within this region. So just be ready for that. But remember the red SNR at the bottom, that's the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can end up getting our last buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, price was somewhere within here. So you can see that at around 9:10, price was there. We did want to see the market break to the upside, come back in on the pullback. This one is similar to what we've seen on the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So it did what we were thinking, it just that it did it bigger, but you can't see that the market went up, just needed to be patient. You can't see that during the New York Stock Exchange, price came in within here, some sort of a slowdown, then went to the upside. So for this one, for today, these are the three levels we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can take note of them. So we do have the aggressive down within here, as much as it seems like it's a long shot, but remember there is no price that's too far, for the Forex market. So right now it's broken to the upside, which is super. But we do need to wait and see whether we can get the pullback coming in within this area. So if we get a repeat of this, we should be fine. And you don't really need to chase. You can imagine guys who were hitting buys when the market was high up within here because they were seeing the market going up and they thought that they had really missed their buy. You just needed to be patient. You can see that the market still came back in within, then you get a nice buy and the market, in fact, goes up quite fast compared to even this buy where it was going up in a choppy move. So you just need to be patient. Watch out for the times, like we always keep on pointing out, 10, 3, 4:30. And no matter what you do, always make sure that you do trade with a stop loss. So last but not least, for the Canadian dollar pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative. Here, price was somewhere within this region. I pointed out that maybe there was a possibility you could have expected some sort of a spike. It did happen. Although when the spike happened, there was not much of a hold. It just tapped within this region. Then after that, the buyers went up, tapped within that area. And then you can see that the sellers really pushed the market to the downside. And I guess a lot of people were fooled thinking that the market was actually going to continue moving down. And you can imagine the number of people who are stopped out just by chasing the sells. And of course, when the market went high up, the guys were chasing the buys. So it's always good to wait, especially for, when there are major news events, it's always good to wait for the dust to settle because you can easily end up getting fooled. But I'm sure most of you have had that experience on the charts. And of course, over time, you do end up becoming good based on experience. So I hope that you're also learning as much as you can based on the experiences that you get on the charts. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. The market has calmed down, definitely stopping out all the people who are chasing buys, as the market was going up, especially after that move from yesterday. This has definitely stopped out very many people. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, if we can get the market slowing down within this region right here, then at least we could try and see whether we could get the market possibly lifting off this area once again. So remember, we're also back in this sort of range. So if we are to go up even to the 1 hour time frame, what you will see is that we're more or less within some sort of a range, in as much as the market has spikes to the upside and to the downside, but generally we're holding within this region right here. So we generally want to be looking for our buys as low as possible, targeting somewhere within there or maybe even higher. But of course, if it breaks to the downside of this region and we get a breach of structure, then I guess at that point in time, there will be no trades for us on this one. So just make sure that you take note of that. And let's see what happens. Maybe during the US session, you could find that maybe all through the London session, the market could be on the turnaround phase. Then, as it sets itself up, then maybe during the US session, that's when you'll find the market possibly now starting to move to the upside. So just make sure that you take that into consideration. So that's pretty much it for the Canadian dollar pairs. Let's look at the yen pairs now, see what they have to offer and what they did yesterday. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get buys. You can see those 3 areas right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. We couldn't get the pullback coming in within there. The market broke to the upside. Somehow held within here, but it took so long to actually lift, off this area right here. It wasn't only until much later on. And of course, today, during the Asian session, that the market has picked up a bit of steam. So for this one, for today, let's see, we'll be lucky enough to get some buying opportunities on this one. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. We do have some sort of a pullback coming in, which is good. So we just need to see the slowdown starting to happen within here. You can already see signs that the buyers are there. Let's see what happens within this area right here. But I think, of course, the best buys are definitely somewhere within here. So we could be getting closer to that time where we could get the buys coming in. Of course, remember, there's also a possibility the market could possibly also spike. Sometimes the markets do that because, it needs to do that so that the opposite party can really slow down. So you could find that maybe as it does that, maybe it could just tap in within somewhere within this area right here. But generally, we want to see the market hold above here before we do end up looking for some buying opportunities. So make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR at the bottom for as long as holding above that region, we're good to go in terms of buys. But if the market comes in within there and breaks beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to also see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can't see the three areas that I had pointed out. Price was somewhere within here. We did want to see the market break to the upside and hopefully pull back in within here. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The market came all the way to within this area. You can see some sort of a fight that was going on between the buyers and the sellers there, breached to the upside, came back in, somehow held within there, some sort of a last spike, within that region before the market moved to the upside. But when all that action was happening, I don't really think any of us were on the charts. So I don't really think there was really much we could have done about this situation right here. So for this one, for today, we'll also try and see whether we will be lucky to get the buys today. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get the market pulling back in within here. Of course, the best buying opportunities are somewhere within here. This level looks like it's hanging in the middle of nowhere, but on the 1 hour time frame, you will see that it's more or less like some sort of an SNR. In fact, the closest SNR that we do have to price to the downside. So if the market can find its way back in within that region, then I think some proper buys should be happening off this region and we could get the market lifting to the upside. If that doesn't happen, then I guess we just have to wait and see whether we could get the market maybe breaking above this region to the upside. If it does on the pullback, then we could try and see whether we could get the buys there. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Any buys within this region, you could actually end up getting stuck within that region. And like I pointed out earlier, those buys, those ones you could be signing up for some major character development, level 1000. So just make sure that you don't do that to yourself. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So you can see that this one is similar to what we've seen on the others. These are the three areas we're watching out for yesterday. Price was somewhere within here. We're expecting price to come back in within this region, for the buy to actually end up happening. The pullback happened much later. Like I pointed out, even like on the rest of the yens, most probably were not on the charts at that point in time. But generally, you can see that the buyers during the Asian session have really stepped back into the scene. So let's see if we can get the pullbacks happening on this one. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So let's see what happens. Hopefully the market can come back in within this region, just like we pointed out on the other ends. Then hopefully we could get the buys there. If not, then I guess it's better to actually wait for the market to break to the upside. Then you could get the buys somewhere within here. Don't really try and be a cowboy. Could easily end up getting squeezed within that region right there. You might not really have the best of experiences today, so don't do that to yourself. So last but not least, for the yen pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, trying to see whether we could get some buys. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out right there, and also what would have expected. You can see that price was somewhere within here. It came up, held back within this region, held within there. We wanted to see the market lift to the upside. Unfortunately, it did start to lift. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get all the way till within that region on the first attempt. And you can see that the market really held within there, came back down all the way till within this region. Although this one could have been a bit of a tricky situation in terms of grabbing the buyers, because this was quite a fast move. And you can see that the market just turned around quite fast within that region to the upside. So for today, these are the three areas. Hopefully, you can end up taking note of them. So we do have the conservative at the top, semi-aggressive conservative region within there. And we do have the aggressive area somewhere within this region right here. So maybe the market could be heading back within here. Let's see if that happens. Then we could get, maybe some sort of a slowdown. And these bars right here might end up attempting to push the market to the upside. So let's just wait and see if we could get that happening. On the other hand, maybe the market could just bounce off this area, because this is also a region. In as much as it's not a major level, but it's there. So you could find that maybe the market could turn around off that region right there, bounce to the upside. If it does that, then I'll definitely be trying to see whether I could get the buys, to the upside of this region right here, as opposed to getting myself squeezed within this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the region at the bottom, like we pointed out, but in case the market breaks to the downside, then unfortunately, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So that's pretty much it for the yen pairs. So we're going to move on to the CHF pairs, which are pretty new, and we'll mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So the first one off, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So hopefully you can take note of those three areas right there. So we do have the aggressive down here, conservative at the top. Let's see if we can get the market breaking and holding above here. If we can get that, then at least we do get some evidence that the market is holding above that region. Then we could look for some buying opportunities there. If not, then let's wait and see if we could get the pullback, either coming back in within this region or somewhere within here. Try and see if you can get the slowdown of the sellers, as they come in and the evidence of the buyers showing up, then you could get some good buys within here. But also watch out for the times. Like we always point out, 10:3 and 4:30, you could possibly get some good opportunities, depending on where the price is. So even if your timing is not really that great, you still can get some good trading opportunities just based on looking at the location of the market and the market timings, getting them correct. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So also a new entrant on our watch list. You can see that the buyers have been pushing up, making higher highs and higher lows, which is okay. So we just need to see the market maybe break and hold above here. Right now it's just broken, which is okay, but we do still need to see more evidence, that the market is actually holding above here. And this is not really the best of breaches. So even if the market does end up moving up higher, don't really feel any FOMO. It's okay. Just wait. You still could find the market coming back in, and at least this will give you more room to play with. Because even if you hit the buys here, the resistance seems like it's somewhere within here. So you easily could end up getting frustrated, within this region. So you're possibly better off either waiting for the market to go to the upside, or if the sellers are going to react, there's a possibility that the market could still come back in, within this region right here. So just make sure that you do wait and see whether you could get any of those two. But you also don't need to force any opportunities on any currency pairs. If you're not really seeing what you need to see on one, it's fine. That's the reason why we end up looking at so many, so that at least you don't really have to force any issues with any one particular currency pair. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a new entrant on our watch list, but you can see some good correlation that's happening across the board on the CHFs so far, even just looking at the three that we've looked at so far. So you can see that this one is also attempting to break to the upside. It's not yet confirmed, because remember that the price can also come back into the downside and actually hold to the downside, and you could find the market coming back in within this region right here. If it does that, you could end up looking for the buying opportunities somewhere within that region there. So it's all dependent on what happens within that area. The pullback could also come in all the way till within that region at the bottom. So let's just wait and see what happens. So even if the market continues to rally up, don't feel bad. Wait and see if the market can even go as high as it can. When it comes back in, you'll even have more room to play with within this region here. So let's see what happens on that one. Maybe during the London session, it could be going up. Then maybe still turn back in, come back in, maybe during the US session, and you could find it somewhere within here at 3, or maybe somewhere within there. So you just need to be a bit patient on that one. So last but not least, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a new entrant. We'll be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. Right now, the market is on the pullback phase, which is okay. So you can see that after the interest rate decisions came out, the market started its move to the upside during the Asian session, went up a bit higher. Right now, we have the pullback coming in. So for this one, it's either, at least if the market can come back to the upside and actually hold above here, then we could look for the buys. I think some good buys could be hiding there. If not, then let's wait and see if we could get the market coming down to within this region. You could find that maybe if it's down within this area right here, maybe at around 3, 4, could find some good buying opportunities within that area. So just make sure that you watch out for that. If we end up going up a higher time frame for this one thing you'll end up realizing is that we're in a range. So you can see that based on the market structure, even on the bigger time frame, you now start to understand why the market reacted off there during the Asian session and also down within this region. In as much as the interest rate decisions came out, but you can see that we're more or less down within some sort of a buyer's region. We're in a range. In fact, if you go up a higher time frame, it becomes even more clearer. So this tells you that the best buying opportunities are definitely down within here, not even in the middle here. They're definitely down within here. Those ones will give you the best risk to reward, because you can see that coming up, this is quite a handful of pips, and which is good. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And also remember, if we get a breach of structure to the upside, you could keep up with the buys, but definitely you will need to watch out for these trades. But now at that point in time, that turns more into swing trading. So just make sure that you watch out at least for these areas. But generally, the best buys are somewhere within here. Let's keep our fingers crossed and see if we can get the market coming back in within there. So that's pretty much it for all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of that and everything we've discussed. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. You can see that there's not been any change on them, as much as a number of them did actually end up moving quite aggressively yesterday during the news events, for the interest rates. So starting off with the NAS 100, these are the three areas we're watching out for yesterday. Trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. The market was in some sort of a range within this region here. And you can't see what I illustrated. I was expecting price to come back in within here to possibly end up getting some buys. And you can see that generally the buyers did hold here. And as much as the sellers did attempt to push the market to the downside, but unfortunately they were unsuccessful. And you can see that the sellers gave issues there at the top. But today, you can see that the market has actually broken free to the upside. So for this one, the levels are more or less the same. So in as much as the price is moving up, let's see how far it does actually end up going, because I don't know about this one, because I know that, okay, this one could be heading at least maybe somewhere within there, but still, we do still need to see the pullback coming in. So we'll still maintain these three areas for now. Let's see what happens. It's just broken to the upside of this area. High probability we could get some sort of a pullback and a retest coming back in within this area. So we'll just have to wait and see if we can actually end up getting that. But of course, the fact that it's moving up higher and higher is okay, which means that if we do get the buys, especially when the market does pull back in within this region, then we'll just target the high of where the market does actually end up reaching right now. But in terms of chasing the buys right now, you're extremely late. You're better off not attempting. So just wait and see if we could get the pullback. Wherever it reaches back in within there, still could end up targeting back at the high. So that's what we're talking about. So also remember these two other regions. Slim possibility price could come back all the way to within there, but it's always good to be ready with something and not need it, rather than need something later on and you're not ready. So let's just have them there. In case the market comes back in within there, then at least we will be ready for that. So moving on into the US 30. So for this one, yesterday and today, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and an illustration of what we're expecting. So I was expecting maybe we got the market spiking to the downside and holding within here. Maybe we could have gotten the market lifting to the upside. I guess the market wasn't just ready to move off this price right here. And you can see that it came down all the way till within this region right here and actually did lift to the upside quite aggressively, although the sellers did shut the buyers down somewhere within there. But also this one to some extent looks like the market is ranging, which means that the best buys right now, based on where we stand, are down within this area right here. So let's see if the market is still going to continue being in this range. You can see that the sellers have reacted off this region before. They can't do that again. You could find the market coming back in, and maybe during the US session, price could be here or maybe somewhere within this region. So we just need to wait and see. But also remember that, just like we've seen on the NAS 100, if the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, and we get a general breach of that structure, then we could try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities within here. But we first need to give these buyers the benefit of doubt. Let them push the market to the upside as far as they can. You can see yesterday they really pushed as far as they could, but they just couldn't sustain price, above that region there. So that means that there are definitely some sellers who are sitting here. So we need to be very cautious about that. So also watch out for these two other regions. If we get the market coming in within this area here, you could look for the buys, but you also need to be careful about them. You could find the market still coming back into the bottom of the range. So just make sure that you're also ready for that. So moving on into silver. Now for silver yesterday and today, the bus is to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was somewhere here. And unfortunately, the big buyers just couldn't come in. So we're expecting maybe if they had loaded up their orders within here, we could have gotten some sort of a lift. But you can generally see that they were not there. They were nowhere to be seen in the market. The market came back down. They somehow showed up. Of course, this was the shenanigans that were going on. When the interest rate decisions came out at around 9, market went up, tapped that region, came back down all the way till within that area. You can see that during the Asian session, the market has resumed to the upside. So I guess we're still in what we call buyer zone. So we'll still be trying to see whether we can get buys. Where the price is right now is not really the best area in terms of looking for the buys. So we'll need to be patient. You can see that sellers have reacted off here before. They can react again, and you could find the market coming back in, within this region here. So in case that does happen, you could find that maybe it could get some buying opportunities within that region, but also we'll have to wait and see if the buyers can actually break above this region to the upside. So far, the momentum seems good. You can see that they're really picking up even as the hours continue to count. So let's see if we can generally get a breach to the upside of that area. If not, then we'll have to wait and see whether we can get the pullback happening on that one. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now, for gold, yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Here you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. And we're expecting maybe, I did expect these sellers to possibly attempt to push to the downside. Consider they had come in quite aggressively within that area there. So I was expecting, hopefully, if they had attempted to come down, break their previous record, then maybe we would have looked for the buys. But consider the market went to the upside, came back in within this region, broke above that area, and it did actually seem like the market was actually holding within this region right here. So this was another trade that I did end up getting. Although I finished poorly on that one, I didn't really end up getting much because the market did actually end up pulling back in within this region. So this was the entry somewhere within this area. The market went up. So I was actually expecting to get the market coming back in somewhere within this region right here. But unfortunately, we couldn't, and the market turned around quite fast within that area there. So unfortunately, the market came down. At least I'd already put stop loss at break even. Ended up not really coming out with much, but it's a real shame considering the fact that when I took the screenshot, I think I was up like 700 or something. But it's okay. We don't really fight with the markets. We don't feel bad. We don't have time to sulk. We move on, look for the next opportunities because they are always there. So let's see what happens on this one. And you can see that guys were really being thrown around all over the place yesterday, especially once the interest rate decisions did end up coming out. I'd already jumped in ahead and I was really thinking that the market was really going to take off to the upside. Of course, I was expecting prices to come up, possibly attempt to breach this area to the upside, but I didn't anticipate that the market was fast going to come back in, within this region, somewhere within this area, right? Especially based on how the buyers had really started to push the market to the upside. So this one was a bit unexpected. But that's the reason why you always need to make sure that your risk is in check because, things can easily change, when it comes to the markets anytime without any warning. So right now, we're still more or less within the same region. Let's see what happens. You can see that there are some major spikes to the upside, to the downside. Gold hit an all-time high yesterday, around 26. But generally, you can see that the market is still holding within here. It came down. These bars within here have contained the sellers who came down and were back within this area. So for this one for today, the game plan is more or less what we did end up having yesterday. So it's either one of two things. Either the market, because there are some sellers within this region right here who also gave me issues yesterday. They do react and we can generally get confirmation, that the market is actually holding above here. We could possibly jump in on another buy, another attempt to possibly end up coming up on that one. If not, and we get the market coming back to the downside of this area, then there are still some good buying opportunities that could possibly end up happening off this area right here. I mean, you can see that the buyers have also pushed the market off this area a number of times. This could be a massive probe that's happened within there. I mean, if you end up going up to the 4-hour time frame, you'll definitely see that. So there's still a possibility price can still tap back in, within this area. And you could find that maybe, after that retest, the market could attempt to go up higher. But the buyers are still strongly in control. You can see how the market went up from about, this was when, about a week ago or thereabout, and the market is holding here. So there's still potential of the market still continuing to move to the upside. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the market challenge, that 2600 level that it did end up tapping in yesterday. So let's see what happens on that one. But remember, silver, gold, the US 30 and the NAS 100, those ones were purely technical. For as long as we're holding above the red SNR, we should be looking for buys. If the market breaks beneath this region and actually holds, then we could start to look for sells. At one point in time, we actually thought we could start to look for sells, but we really wanted to see what was going to happen on the pullback. And the fact that the pullback hasn't really held, had it held within here, then would have started to look for the selling opportunities. But the fact that it's back in within this sort of range, then automatically we're back into looking for buying opportunities. So just make sure that you also do factor that in as you continue looking out for opportunities. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So you can end up looking at the Q&A real quick. So you see Caroline Chege there, you're asking about the NAS 100. So for this one, we're trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities. So these are the three areas. Let me just get rid of the ones that we're watching out for yesterday. So this is what the plan is going to be looking like on this one for today. So the market has gone up. Don't chase the buys. Like I was pointing out, wait and see if you could get the pullback coming back in within here. Then you could find some proper buys happening off there to push to the upside. So watch out for that. And of course, these two other regions right here. So I hope that's clear for you, Caroline Chege. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. And I guess everything is clear. But also remember, in case you want to run through everything we've discussed here, you also can find this information on our YouTube channel as well. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, if you need more education or more help, you can visit our website. And also you can get our contact details. I know they are there on the chat box. We do have all the resources there, starting off with the UBC, which is the free course, the masterclass. You can jump in on the AMP. We have 2 classes left. So we do have the October and the November class. If you want to sign up for that, feel free to do so. We have a couple of slots left, and I guess this information should also be there on the chat box. So in case you do need to read a bit more about it, you can find the information there. But also in case anything is not too clear, also feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to actually be of help to you. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, may the peace be with you. God bless, and bye for now.